Okay, what's going on, people? TJ back with another Rugby Muscle podcast. And today we've got a bit of a Q&A episode. So I'll be answering some questions from you guys that were posted on the community feed as I posted them up a couple weeks back. If you want your question answered, be sure to stay subscribed on YouTube so that you'll see the community tab pop up with a questions thread. Or you can just throw them in the comments below, either on YouTube or on Spotify. And these are some great opportunities to answer issues that have been bugging you specifically, and that I can then answer, not only to help engage everyone else that might be having some similar issues, but also personally help you out with some issues that have been bugging you. And of course, if you'd like to take this a step further, you can hit any of the links below to check out what I offer here at Rugby Muscle or work with me directly. If not, that's cool. Let's just dive into the 3 questions I have for this week. And if you do get value from this podcast, just take 1 second to hit thumbs up, maybe 5 seconds to rate it 5 stars, or maybe 10 seconds to share it with a teammate. That stuff really does help grow the show, and I appreciate you massively for doing it. Probably one of the best things that you can do is figure out, where are you having sticking points with your training? What would you like to help me help you solve? So ask those questions in the comments below, and let's get to it. Number 1, first question from Alperin Kademli over in Turkey. I'll read it out verbatim. He says, "Hello TJ, first of all, thank you for making an amateur athlete like me realize the importance of aerobic training. I thought that long, light-paced runs had no place in rugby, but I was wrong. Right now, I basically do 2 things, 30 to 45-minute runs at around 145 heart rate, and then 30, 45, and 60-meter sprints. It was great for me to lose 15 kilo of fat whilst doing these. Awesome. You always recommend Zone 2 workouts, but my Samsung Health app has 3 different zone calculation methods. Which one should I use? I'm trying to clarify, and I thought it would be best to ask you." Now, about those zone calculators, this is where things can get a little messy. Different apps will use different formulas, and they will also have different data, because some apps, will track your heart rate differently. Some use percentage of your max heart rate, some will use heart rate reserve, some sort of try to estimate lactate threshold based on pace. It's kind of all over the place. So here's what I would recommend instead of trusting any app blindly. You would use your perceived effort plus your heart rate to give you a guide for the long term. So what do I mean by that? So zone 2 really should be like a 3 to 4 out of 10 effort, maybe even lower, like a 2 to 3 out of 10. You should be able to breathe through your nose most of the time and not really get too uncomfortable. You should be able to talk, maybe not as fluently as I am right now, but you should be able to string a decent 10-word sentence together. I use all the time when I go for my runs. I went for a run this morning, and at some point when I was like, "Oh, I might be pushing it a bit too hard here," I went, "This is my test to check out that I'm in zone 2 and doing just fine." And it was. If I end up saying that and I'm like, "This is my test to check that I'm in zone 2, and I'm just doing," then I've overdone it, right? So that's really the easiest way to sort of gauge your intensity. If you find yourself getting a bit too out of breath, just slow down a little bit and then see as you get your heart rate back down and you feel a bit better. Now, for the heart rate itself, I do not like using 180 minus your age as a rule. I don't really like any rule for that matter. Like when you say that your max heart rate is 220 minus your age, I'm 36 and I regularly get into the 190s when I'm doing my jiu-jitsu, so don't know how that makes any sense. So the best way to use heart rate data, now I do use heart rate data. When I'm running, I'll use my Apple Watch. When I'm doing grappling, I will use a heart rate monitor. If I'm doing touch rugby, I'll use a heart rate monitor. And the best way to use that heart rate data, like even if it's not a very good monitor, you can still use that data quite well. And what you'll do is you'll spot trends over the long term. Because for a lot of people, as you get fitter, your heart rate is going to change. Your zones are going to change anyway. Your heart rate will probably go down as you keep the same pace or even potentially get faster. And so like that's one trend that you can look for in the long term, is to see how your heart rate is like slowly trending down for a similar pace run, right? If that's what is happening, that's a good thing. That means that your body is able to really work well at a lower heart rate, which means your aerobic system is becoming more bust. Now, the other it's kind of within the moment, but you can only check it after the fact, is to check what happened to your heart rate during your session. So when you finished your zone 2 effort, whatever it is, you look at your session and you see if your heart rate has drifted up as the session went on. This is what we want to avoid, right? What we really want to look for when we're training within zone 2 is probably 5 to 15 minutes or so of getting your heart rate to a certain plateau where you're in zone 2, and it sort of stays flat from there. If your heart rate continues to drift up by like more than 10 or so beats per minute as the session goes by, so it spikes up and then it doesn't hold flat, it spikes up and then slowly drifts up as the session goes on, you're pushing just a little bit too hard. And this will differ depending on heat, hydration, sleep, and recovery, which is why RPE is just a really easy way to test within the moment how you're feeling. Personally, for me, when it's hot, I turn into a fountain. So if I'm not hydrated, my heart rate will spike. And it's not to say that I'm not getting any use with my heart rate drifting a bit too at the time, but it's better for me. It's like, that's an indication, hey, you should stay hydrated, and that way your heart rate will sort of hit a better plateau. Now, obviously, there is no perfect answer. This is just a way for you to manage your intensity without getting lost in the tech. Another thing I will mention is that a lot of people are afraid that their zone 2 session is not intense enough. If you're doing any sort of exercise, even hikes and stuff, as long as your heart rate is above 110, then you're getting in some quality aerobic work without pushing too much on the fatigue that will then affect your subsequent training session. So that's really what you're looking for. You're looking to keep your heart rate somewhat stable. You're looking to do the talk test, breathe easy, and not fry yourself for subsequent sessions. That really is the beauty of using zone 2, is that you can get some quality work in and maintain that quality and go intense on your other sessions. So the next one, short and sweet, comes from Dave Thompson 103 on YouTube. Dave is a coaching client, so could have asked this privately, but he's throwing this up to help everyone else out. Appreciate that, Dave. So he says, what options would you consider to improve flexibility? And this is a great question because it is also super common with our older folks getting into the later years of their rugby career. I think a lot of guys think that improving their flexibility as they've lost it through the years potentially is going to help them stay injury free. It's going to help them stay injury free, feel more recovered through the time. And for the most part, that's not going to be the case. And that's just because flexibility, as most people think of it, like passively stretching, all that stuff, it's overrated, right? If it's really passive, then you're not really going to get too much in as far as being able to use that range of motion under control with strength. You're not even really going to increase flexibility that much. And if it is increasing flexibility, then we're looking at mobility, and that is not actually going to be anything that you can do as a modality to help you recover. That is going to be training. That is going to be utilizing the muscles, and they're going to get a stress adaptation that they then need to recover for. So you're not using stretching as a modality to recover, you're using stretching as a modality to increase your mobility, to get some usable range of motion under control with strength that you can actually apply force to. So you don't need to be a gymnast, you just need to move well under load and then potentially do so at game speed when we're looking at the rugby situation. So what should you actually do? I think 3 things. Number 1, loaded full range of motion strength training. We could do just normal, bench press, pull-ups, RDLs, and full range of motion squats, and that would cover a lot of bases for most people. We can then branch out into things like Cossack squats, deep split squats, rear foot elevated split squats. We could do single leg RDLs to really stretch out the hamstrings. We can go slow and really control that tempo to feel that stretch, own that stretch, and then squeeze on our way up. And we can do this for several different movements and muscles. Another one that's just popped into my head, which is absolute magic, is the dumbbell pullover. Again, you'll be able to really increase your range of motion, but whilst using weights, while strengthening the musculature of the chest and of the back. Really good movement like that. Lots of different things that you can do, but the idea is that we're not really thinking about this as like a mobility exercise. We're thinking about this as strength training, but we're pushing that range of motion. The more strength that you build, the more range of motion you can build, the more comfortable you can be in those different end ranges. and perform and not be at risk of injury, and more force that you can use, the more athletic you can be, all that good stuff that I believe you want from being more flexible. Second thing I would do is avoid staying in one position for long periods of time. So immobility doesn't come from sport as much as it comes from everything that you're doing within your day-to-day environment, right? So you could do a bodybuilding split for years and years and years on end, but the most that you're going to spend in the gym is like 1 to 2 hours, right, per day. If you're working and you're sat at a desk looking at a screen that's slightly below you or anywhere really, or you're hunched over looking at your phone on your commute to work, that's going to be more hours of your day, particularly if you're working in a desk, right? You're sat down, a shortened hamstring position because your knees are going to be bent. If you stay in that position for too long, like over time, that's going to add up. That's going to stiffen up your muscle or shorten the muscle belly. You're also going to have similar issues potentially if you're just standing the whole time or if you're leaning. So really what you want to do is avoid just staying in one position for hours and hours and hours on end, day to day to day to day. Simple things like 5 to 10 minutes of like a movement snack where you could just get up, walk around, maybe do some squats, maybe do some lunges. Like you set a timer every hour and just get up off your desk. Maybe you set a timer every hour and change position. That stuff, if you do that every day for a month, come back to me and report how much better you feel. Neck, shoulder issues, lower back issues, hamstring issues, hip issues, they can all be solved by not staying in the same position 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That really does help. And the third and final point is that if you are looking to really increase your flexibility, then I would recommend some post-session stretching, ideally PNF stretching. There are different drills that you can do, but weighted stretches, PNF stretching are probably going to be your two priorities. You would also then switch your training, like your strength training, to really prioritize lots of different full range of motion. So we're not just happy with squats, we're going to go with deep split squats, we're going to go with Cossack squats, and we're going to really use movements that are going to prioritize that mobility. And then we're also going to prioritize some stretching. We're not going to do stretching to relax. We're not going to do stretching passively. We're going to actively challenge our range of motion, and we're going to monitor it over time. And this is a really layered process that I think goes beyond the scope of not only this podcast, but what you need as a rugby player anyway. I don't think you need any of this really if you're just looking to get into positions that you will find yourself in on a rugby pitch. I don't think this is needed if you just want to be as flexible enough to completely reduce your injury risk as a rugby player or as a person that's feeling stiff and sore over time. I just don't think any of this is overly necessary. If you want to do it as a challenge, as a goal to get more mobile, then by all means do so, prioritize it, but understand that this is beyond what we would need as a rugby player. And obviously, when we're looking at our time crunches, both with our recovery and with our pure time that we need to allocate to strength, hypertrophy, aerobic conditioning, speed, power, and athleticism, like you have to be really careful with that. And then to add another thing in that is also vying for that recoverability, vying for that time, that is where we end up competing. But luckily enough, the other two things don't cost you any extra time. The other two things will give you as much mobility as you need as an aging or even as a young athlete to get all the benefits from mobility that you need, or be as mobile as you need to be, and to be injury free, or to minimize your injury risk as a player, and to not feel sore or not be restricted within your range of motion, injuries permitting. Okay, cool. And the last question today comes from Ben B12, who says, "Hi TJ, physios told me that I have osteitis pubis caused by overtraining on my feet, mainly as I played for club, school and district this season. Can't do any on-feet conditioning or speed work for at least 2 to 3 months. How can I become fitter using a ski erg and bike?" So again, brilliant question, relatable for young athletes grinding through long seasons, probably relatable for the older athletes that just can't deal with too much on their feet. First off, like playing for free teams with no structure is a recipe for breaking down. Not your fault necessarily, but it is the system, and I've been there personally myself. I played at school, club and county, and I loved it all at the same time, and I think there was barely a day I had off of rugby, but I really did burn myself out, particularly when I was doing this at a time when I was like 17, I was playing senior men's rugby as well. I was lucky that my head coach at my rugby club like gave me the month off when I told him that I was just starting to feel burnt out, and I recovered from that. But for you, that much load with no recovery, yeah, something's gonna always end up giving, and in this case, obviously, it has done so with your pubic bone. Now, we've still got the tools, particularly for you, the ski erg and the bike. They're going to be great for your condition if they're used right. So here's what I would do. I'd still just do most of your work at zone 2. I think just continuing to build that base, because when you're doing zone 2, it's not muscle specific. You're just training the aerobic system to pump that blood around the body. This would be your mainstay for your conditioning. However much you can do it, just can do it. It's like a time commitment, really. And as long as you're getting in the calories to recover from that, you're good. 30 to 60 minutes, steady state. Maybe you can even go beyond that, but maybe not so with a ski erg and a bike, because you're just stuck in that same motion. That's where I like running, because if you're running outside, then you're changing direction enough, you're changing your movement pattern enough, you're not repeated that gait like you would do on a treadmill or on a bike or on any sort of fixed range of motion thing. So I would keep this one limited to probably 60 minutes in one session, but you could do that every day, really, if you wanted to. Everything that I have outlined above in the first question, I would do that without thinking about it as a run. You could do that on a ski erg, you could do that on the bike, put a screen in front of you, zone out, watch some rugby, do whatever you want. And yeah, that would really build yourself a robust aerobic system so that when you come back and you are able to run, you're able to recover nice and quick. Then we can look at some interval work. So we're looking at like a 5 to 10 seconds as hard as you can work with 50 to 60 seconds off. And we're looking at our power output here. We're looking at utilizing the energy system that you need to replenish when you're going all out and you're doing your carries and stuff in the game. Now, towards the end of the off season is when I would use this to prepare your energy system for sprints, for rugby upcoming, maybe like 4 weeks out, maybe 8 weeks out at most from your preseason. But then I then start to look to add this in. And I'd probably do it on the bike rather than the ski erg. But the ski erg could also work, and it wouldn't be too negative as well if you wanted to do that a couple times a week. Third thing I would do is your weight room work, and we would control the rest period for that. So upper body, if you can do lower body weights to some extent, I'd make sure we're doing that. We would look at doing stuff like every minute on the minute working sets. We would look at escalating density training, where we're trying to hit a certain rep goal or a certain set goal between 2 to 3 different exercises within 10 to 15 minutes. And that way we're keeping a high tempo. We are getting some good work capacity whilst getting our strength work done. I'm not really a fan of resting 5 minutes between sets. Like, hit your set, right, and now recover well, get to work. Now, if your conditioning, if your work capacity is quite weak, this will be a hard transition. And if you're physically weak as well, then I would really potentially allow you to rest some whilst you're building in your zone 2. But as the weeks go by, let's look to slowly reduce that rest period and incorporate more of these shorter rest period, control rest period ideas in order to improve your conditioning whilst not taking away from your strength work and doing it as part of your strength work. You could use a heart rate monitor here, or you could just have your watch on and have that tracking your heart rate. You don't even need it really. You just need to go and attack the next set when you feel ready to go. And maybe you're just going to track your total session time. So if you're not using the escalating density training, you're using your traditional training, you'll just look to make sure that you are either getting more work done in the same time or taking less time to get through all of the same amount of work, potentially even heavier. And that way, your conditioning, your work capacity is also increasing. And listen, if you're really stuck and need a plan tailored to you around your injury, that is what Rugby Muscle is for. Hit the link for coaching in the description, or just drop me a message and we can build something around that for stuff that you can do and keep the progress rolling. Okay, that will do us for the Q&A episode. Massive shout out to everyone who sent in these questions. I am looking to get these up quite regularly, so if you've got something that you want answered, drop it in the YouTube comments below. I will read everything, or if you're listening on Spotify, hit the 3 dots and ask it there. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and if you're serious about your progress, check out the links in the description below for how you can work with Rugby Muscle directly. Thanks so much for listening. I'll catch you in the next one.